The text message arrived like a structural failure I never saw coming. Dad, after talking it over, we're doing Christmas just us this year. We need our own family traditions. Hope you understand. I stared at my phone until the screen went dark. It was a Tuesday night in early December. The kind where frost crawls across windows and the world feels colder than it should. I'd spent 38 years as a civil engineer designing bridges that refused to buckle. Now my only son had politely uninvited me from the table I'd been quietly holding up for years. His name is Michael, 33, married to Sarah, 2 kids, Lucas, 7, and little Emma, who turned 5 in September. I knew those birthdays because I'd funded the parties, the bouncy houses, the custom cakes. For the last 4 years I'd carried their mortgage, $3,100 a month on a house still in my name, both car notes, private school for Lucas, and a credit card Sarah used like an extension of her checking account. It added up to roughly $92,000 a year. That night I sat at the kitchen island with a yellow legal pad and did the math again. Then I started canceling everything. I left Lucas's tuition alone, he was just a boy. But the mortgage auto-pay? Gone. The cars? Removed. The insurance? I began the paperwork to drop Michael. The credit card? Reported lost. Each click felt heavy, final, and strangely necessary. The embarrassment came first, then the sadness. My late wife, Margaret, had passed 7 years ago after a brutal battle with cancer. She'd always known how to reach Michael. I'd chosen checks instead of conversations. Generosity had become my only language, and he'd learned to speak it fluently. I didn't reply to the text. 3 days later my attorney Frank sent the certified letter. The house was going on the market. They had 60 days. The calls flooded in. Michael, Sarah, even her mother. I let them ring while I took my morning walks through neighborhoods glittering with lights. When Michael finally reached me, his voice cracked with panic. "You're selling our home? Over one text." "Not over a text," I said quietly. "Over years of being treated like a wallet with a pulse. You made it clear I'm not real family. So I'm adjusting the arrangement." He argued about the kids, the school year, the disruption. I reminded him I hadn't touched Lucas's tuition. The conversation ended with heavy silence and my promise that I still loved him, though love would look different now. The weeks that followed were brutal. Angry voicemails, judgmental messages from distant relatives, sleepless nights where I questioned everything. But I held the line. Then one Saturday morning Michael showed up unannounced. He looked exhausted, thinner. We sat at the same kitchen table where I'd made my calculations. He spoke haltingly about old wounds, fears Sarah carried from her own parents, insecurities he'd never voiced. I admitted my part. How easy it had been to write checks instead of asking hard questions. We didn't fix everything that day. The house sold anyway. They found a modest rental. Michael and Sarah learned to budget, argue about money, and stand on their own. Lucas switched schools but made new friends. Emma loved the backyard swing. I spent Christmas with my neighbor Harold and his wife, good food, loud grandchildren, unexpected warmth. Michael called that morning. We talked longer than we had in years. No grand declarations, just real words. Rebuilding a relationship with your adult child in your 60s is slow, imperfect work. There are no blueprints. But stopping the pattern I helped create was the first honest step I'd taken in a long time. Sometimes the strongest bridges aren't the ones you keep propping up. They're the ones you finally let stand on their own.